you have reflected with a lot of pathos that the day of massacre at Nalanda, in a very poetic terms, Abhay writes, and I quote the last few lines, that the light of the world is fading today to face the ravages of time alone, abandoned, scorned, forgotten, or perhaps to be reborn into many Nalandas. So this is from a poem that he wrote the day of massacre at Nalanda. So this the physical form of Nalanda didn't survive this plunder that went on even in the next century, that is the 13th century. And by the early 14th century, you write that Nalanda ceased to function as an university or as a Mahavihara. So after that, the legacy of Nalanda, you say that it lived as an idea, as an abstraction, but as an inspiration for a knowledge system that would be created in the ancient world. How in the 20th century, you write, after this idea got a relook by some of the in a way some institutional reincarnation of this idea.
Right. So see, I mean, there is a very vivid account of the destruction of the Vihara of Odantapuri by Bakhtiyar Khilji, by the Persian historian Minhaj. And Persian historian Minhaj, he has written that as per the eyewitness accounts, he met two raiders.
Can you sum it up for our viewers?
Yes. So this, he meets these two raiders who participated in the raids in Odantapuri, which is located just 15 kilometers from Nalanda, Bihar Sharif. And these, they tell him, that how viciously, what was the how he went to the gate of the fort of Bihar, Odantapur, with only 200 horses and began the war by taking the enemy unawares. Muhammad Bakhtiyar, with great vigor and audacity, rushed in at the gates of the fort and gained possession of the place. Great plunder fell into the hands of the victors. Most of the inhabitants of the place were Brahmins with shaven heads. They were put to death. Large number of books were found there, and when the Mohammedans saw them, they called for some person to explain their contents, but all the men had been killed. It was discovered that the whole fort and city was a place of study, madrasa. These are the words of Minhaj, and he writes in his book Tabaqat-e-Nasiri. So now see, this is just one of the descriptions which is found in the historical accounts. But if you look at the motive of Bakhtiyar, what he wanted to do, he wanted to raid and plunder and loot these rich monasteries, because monasteries that time were the richest places in Magad. And there was a political vacuum, there was no central authority. So he marched, you can see, with just 200 horses, and there was no one to stop him. So obviously there had been a political and economic vacuum.
That you say power vacuum.
Yes, a power vacuum at that point of time. And his main goal was to get rich. So I write about him that how he wanted to not only raid the monasteries of Nalanda and Vikramshila and Odantapuri, but also, as it says,
was a burning of libraries a later event?
So I'm coming to that. So on that basis, and Bakhtiyar actually, he also wanted to raid the monasteries of Tibet, the rich monasteries of Tibet, but he could not cross the river Brahmaputra, and he was he was assassinated by his own lieutenant. So on that basis, it is common sense that a person who is coming all the way and raids and loots a monastery which is just 15 kilometers away from Nalanda, and raids also the monastery of Telhara, which is also very close by. So in that light, it is considered that Nalanda was attacked and destroyed by Bakhtiyar Khilji. So now about 40 years later, there is an eyewitness account by a Tibetan monk called Dharma Swami, who visits Nalanda from 1235 to 36, and he studies with the last monk, he says the last monk of Nalanda, Rahul Sri Bhadra. And Rahul Sri Bhadra, he sees that out of 14 Mahaviharas, only 2 are functional. And the place, the monastery, Mahavihara, is being continuously raided by the Bakhtiyar's troops who are stationed at Udantapur or Bihar Sharif.
And you write that there was one more massive raid into 1235.
Yes. So Dharma Swami writes, in 1235 CE, Nalanda was again attacked by the Turuskas of Udantapuri. Jayadev was arrested and put in prison by them when he learned about their plan to raid Nalanda again. So you see, here is a successive raids happening, because Nalanda was too large to be destroyed in one raid or 2 raids or even 10 raids. It would take decades to destroy Nalanda. But most of the monks, because of the terror, had fled. And once you destroy the ecosystem of monasteries, which sustained all these, you also need supply. You don't need to physically destroy anything. If you can destroy the supply chain on which food supply, if you create terror in the surrounding areas, monasteries cannot survive. So on these practical arguments and common sense, it is assumed that Nalanda was destroyed by Bakhtiyar Khilji.